So earlier this week, we got another look at The Witcher 4, courtesy of a tech demo for Unreal Engine 5. Now, obviously this demo is all about showing off the capabilities of Unreal Engine 5, not actually showing us off any story, lore or gameplay for the upcoming 4th Witcher game. So what we see we have to take with a little bit of a pinch of salt. Some of this could change and I think it's highly likely that a lot will. However, I do think we can get some bits of information on what will be in the final game based on this demo. Or at the very least, I can come up with some wild speculation. Let's start off with the setting for The Witcher 4, or at least one of them, the nation of Kovir. We've heard this mentioned before in the past, but now we're getting a proper look at it. Up to now, the nation of Kovir has not appeared in any of the books or the 3 previous games, but it has gotten a few mentions, so it's not entirely new. In the past, Kovir had been part of the nation of Redania, a nation that was very important to the previous Witcher games. However, when it separated, it did merge with the nation of Povis, creating the kingdom of Kovir and Povis. This kingdom is quite prosperous, although that wasn't always the case, and looking at the village Ciri's walking through, yeah, everything looks quite prosperous. People are well dressed, it's all bright colours, there's a lot of produce on sale. It looks like a place that's actually very good to live in. Kovir is also the home to the University of Lanexter, a rival to Oxenfurt Academy, which we saw in The Witcher 3. If you did play The Witcher 3, you might remember that Kovir is where Triss is attempting to send refugees during the Second Northern War. Also, if you romance Triss, then supposedly Geralt and she would settle down there, with Triss becoming an advisor to the nation's ruler. Now, obviously, the ending for The Witcher 3 is a little bit up in the air. The game has multiple endings, which can also be influenced depending on who you did or didn't romance. Also, the DLC Blood and Wine and some other stuff does imply that Geralt will be actually at his vineyard, Corvo Bianco, not anywhere else. However, with this information that Triss can end up there is a possibility we could be seeing some familiar faces in our journeys around Kovir. Finally, we know 3 locations in Kovir: Lanexter, Kovir's winter capital, Port Vanis, the summer capital, and Valdris, the port town that is seen in the tech demo where Ciri has picked up a contract hunting a local monster. Which does bring us to our next point. So, at the start of the demo, we can see this fine fellow here attacking some local merchants who are doing a little bit of smuggling. This is the monster Ciri is hunting, and it is a manticore. Like a lot of monsters in the Witcher franchise, the manticore is based on real-world mythology. Manticores are from ancient Persian mythology, and they have similarities to the Egyptian Sphinx. It has a human face while its body is that of a lion, and it either has a scorpion tail or a tail covered in spines, which are similar to the quills of a porcupine. Some myths say that manticores are able to launch the quills as a form of attack, while others depict them with wings. And we can see here that in the Witcher universe, manticores do in fact have wings. Now, manticores have not appeared in any of the Witcher games as of yet, although Geralt does mention killing one in his past. Manticores were meant to appear in The Witcher 3, however they were cut out during the game's development. We know we would have fought at least one at Kaer Morhen, however this was replaced with a fork tail instead. Thanks to some leaks, we also do have some information on what it would be like to fight a manticore, but as I said, since the manticore was cut during development, we don't know how final any of this information is, and of course a lot of it could change by the time Witcher 4 comes out. Now, this quest that we are seeing here has given me some thought. Could we be looking at The Witcher 4's prologue? One thing I noticed with this gameplay is how similar it is to the prologue of The Witcher 3. Now, there's not a lot to go on, and I'll admit, I'm kinda stretching, but there are a few things to go on, so while this is wild speculation, it's wild speculation with some evidence. Starting off with Ciri, her clothes are very similar to Geralt's starting gear in The Witcher 3. It's not an exact one-to-one match, but it is pretty damn close. The real similarities, however, are seen in the quest Ciri is on and the region she is exploring. In The Witcher 3's prologue, Geralt is searching for Ciri, and he's starting off in a region called White Orchard, which also has a village called White Orchard. White Orchard is in the nation of Temeria, just outside the country's capital of Vizima. During his search, Geralt takes a contract from Captain Peter Sargwin-Leave of the Nilfgaardian army to kill a griffin that has been terrorizing the local area and killing merchants. And now here in The Witcher 4, we can see Ciri in the village of Valdris, which is just outside a massive city, one of the 2 previously mentioned capitals, Van Exter. And here, Ciri is hunting a different flying monster, a manticore, which is terrorizing the local area and killing local merchants. Now, as I said, I know all of this is a bit of a stretch, it's all pretty flimsy connections, but I do think there could be something here. And it would be rather fitting if Ciri's first proper solo adventure started off the same way Geralt's last adventure started off. It's also worth mentioning that the quest we saw Ciri on in the last trailer was very similar to another of Geralt's quests from The Witcher 3. Both of them were trying to save children, sacrificed by their village to a monster so the village would stay prosperous. I just hope that not all of Ciri's quests are so similar to Geralt's. We've only seen 2 of them, but both of them are already very familiar. Now, we've known since the original trailer that Ciri is a proper witcher. She has the eyes, the magic detecting medallion, the signs, the potions. Ciri is a witcher. However, in the first trailer, Ciri was called a witcher.
A witcher? Witcher!
Whereas here in the second trailer, she is called a witcheress, a specific gender-focused title.
Witcheress? What news of my wagons?
As far as I've been able to find, the title Witcheress is never mentioned in canon, either the book canon or the game canon, and those are 2 very different things. CD Projekt Red can go off in their own direction if they want, but the term Witcheress can be found in Fanon, so CD Projekt Red may be borrowing that title from Fanon. What I find really interesting is that Ciri is not using the title Witcheress or telling someone else to use it. Someone she's just talking to is using it by themselves. Now, it should also be pointed out, in this trailer, it seems that Ciri has met this man before, so she could have told him to use the title Witcheress before, or he could have just decided to use that and there's just some dialogue we're not hearing. Also, in the previous trailer where she is called a witcher, the guy who says it doesn't really see her face, so it's possible that she's just using that because he doesn't know she's a woman. However, the title Witcheress could mean something more. Could the title of Witcheress indicate that Ciri has been a witcher for quite some time now? Something that she's gotten used to and developed her own reputation around? Do people know her as the Witcheress? Or perhaps there are other female witchers out there already. Maybe Ciri's not the first. We are entering a new world and Ciri seems to be part of a new witcher school, the Lynx. So maybe things have changed or they're just different here in Kovir than they were down south. However, when Ciri does get to Valdres, we can see that things aren't too different. When Ciri arrives into town, we can see that the people of the village react to her being there, and they react in a typical fearful way. As Ciri is going into the village, we can see this guard here spit on the ground, and this mother pulls her child away. Witchers are used to the prejudice of others, and it seems that at least here in Kovir, it's pretty much the same as it would be down south. Now, of course, these reactions could be scripted either as you enter Valdres for the first time or just scripted for the demo, but I really hope not. Witchers are meant to be feared by the people who make use of their services. People fear witchers as much as they fear the monsters that they hunt, and I want to see that in Ciri's story. Ciri desperately wants to be a witcher, and I want to see her face the good and the bad. I want to see her face everything, and I want to see her overcome it. In a similar vein, we see people interacting with the world around them based on Ciri's random interactions with them. Specifically, we see people looking at Ciri as she walks by, we see them moving out of her way as she pushes through a crowd, and here when we see Ciri knock over this man's apples, a lot of stuff happens around them. A chicken jumps out of the way, while a child and some pigs run up to collect the apples. We can see that this village feels really alive. There's just so much going on everywhere you look. People are haggling over prices, drunks are being thrown out of taverns. There's a town square that has different events happening at different times. Now, whether that's based on the time of day, the calendar as the story progresses, or it's just random, we don't know. But it is nice to see that these villages will be a bit more dynamic than they were in the past, that they'll be a bit more random, like real life. Some games, cities can feel kind of sterile. There's a lot going on, but it's all very surface level. Look too closely and you'll see that nothing is really happening. NPCs are just standing around or repeating the same action over and over again, or they're just walking in random directions with no destination. A lot of big cities in video games have little life or substance. However, here in Valdres, a lot is happening, and it's all very dynamic and very natural. People are walking around, they're having conversations with each other, they're interacting with each other and the world, and they're interacting in physical ways. They're interlocking their arms with each other, they're picking things up and putting them down, and then someone else is picking them up. This is very hard to do in gaming, and this is the one thing in the trailer that I would bet is still going to be there in the final game, because this is a tech demo. As I said, this isn't about showing off gameplay or story or anything like that, it's about showing off what Unreal Engine 5 can do. And after the not so great launch of Cyberpunk 2077, I don't think CD Projekt Red can afford to show off the gameplay like this and not deliver on it, or at least not deliver closely. They know what is on the line, and I don't think they're going to make the same mistake again. Now, for the final bit of info to point out, like Geralt, Ciri will have her own animal companion to help her on her journeys. Her horse, Kelpie. The name Kelpie comes from Celtic mythology. They were shape-shifting water creatures that would appear to humans, enticing them to ride on their backs. Once their victim had hopped on, a Kelpie would ride off to drown them in the nearest body of water. And like manticores, Kelpies are part of the Witcher world. Now, one interesting thing to note is that in her past, Ciri had a horse called Kelpie. Now, whether this is the same horse or like with Geralt and Roach, Ciri has named her new horse after her old one, we don't know, but my money would be on the second one. We can also see on the back of Kelpie a hook, which a Witcher would use to hang the trophy from a slain monster. So it's pretty much confirmed that like in the Witcher 3, we will be taking trophies from monsters and mounting them on the back of Kelpie. And there is one bonus bit of info just to end things off.
That's what happens when you cheat at Gwent.
Gwent is confirmed. And that's it. That's everything I thought worth pointing out from the tech demo, plus one theory of when this actually takes place. Obviously, I didn't point out everything. I didn't think there was much of a point going through all the stuff that the devs had shown off, like the inner workings of Kelpie. But what did you guys think of the tech demo itself? Are you happy to have any bit of information on The Witcher 4, or do you think they should have just left it and waited until they were going to show off some gameplay and story details? Personally, I don't mind. We're not going to be getting The Witcher 4 till 2027 at the earliest, so I'm happy with anything really. If you noticed something I didn't, do let me know down in the comments below, and if you have any further information to build on what I've already said, do let me know as well. If you like this video, give it a like, because that would be really great, and don't forget you can subscribe to this channel here to stay up to date on all Witcher 4 news, and a bunch of Elder Scrolls videos I have coming out very soon. But with that, I shall see you all next time.